So about 1 in 8 adults in the United States smoke marijuana, and that number has been going up fairly steadily since the early 2000s. And this is pretty good news for the marijuana industry, not such good news for the alcohol and tobacco industry because this is taking away from their sales. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 6 biggest licensed producers in Canada, which are the companies that can grow and sell marijuana. And this video is intended more for your newcomers and the people that don't know a lot about the industry, just to give you a general sense about the companies and their expectations. But I'll put the list in the description if you don't want to watch the whole video, but I will be making some points about the companies, so if you're new and don't really know much about these companies, you might want to watch it, learn a few things, and yeah. So first on the list we have Canopy Growth. This company is the biggest company in the industry currently. It has about half of the market share, half of the Canadian market share that is, and every time we get any sort of major news about the marijuana industry, Canopy Growth is mentioned in it. And being the biggest does have those benefits. They do get a lot of press coverage and they do get a lot of financing. That's not really an issue for them. So this is it's a good all-round company that should be experiencing some growth over the next few years, some very nice growth, and yeah, it's a good company overall. Up next on the list is Aphria, and Aphria also a pretty big company, almost worth $1 billion. Probably will be soon, but the interesting thing about this company is that it is the most aggressive company when it comes to expanding by investing into other companies. So what they do with some of their money is they will take their money and buy portions of other smaller companies with them, other companies that are marijuana related. And so far they've been doing a fairly good job. They haven't made too many bad investments. And the bad investments that they have made, they've sold off and made profit off them before they tanked. So they seem to be knowing what they're doing. And if you're interested in a company that expands by acquiring other companies and diversifying a little bit, Aphria is a good company. Up next we have Aurora Cannabis, and the good thing about Aurora Cannabis, and this also applies to Aphria Cannabis, these two are kind of close to being equal at this point. But the good thing about these two companies is that they should be having some of the lowest costs of production of producing marijuana in the next year or so. So Canopy Growth, for example, it's producing marijuana. The price per gram for its marijuana is a little bit higher than somebody like Aphria or Aurora. And as the industry matures, these companies are going to be having better margins than somebody like Canopy Growth. So they should theoretically be making a little bit more money and be a little bit better off that way. Now, how that's actually going to develop is difficult to say. Canopy Growth might adapt, but at least in the short term, in the next year or so, these companies should be having some of the lowest production costs in the industry. So they're going to be making the best margins in theory, which is good for them. Up next on the list is OrganiGram. This company is fairly interesting because it was the first company to really majorly screw up in the industry. It had a pretty significant recall because a lot of its marijuana was contaminated with pesticides. And because of that, their company did not grow in a period where other companies grew, and also a lawsuit was announced in this area which caused this major dip. But this company is discounted relative to other companies because of that recall, so if you're interested in a company that might be discounted a little bit because of its worse reputation than all other companies, you might want to look into this one. Now, whether or not that discount is worth the bad reputation that they have is another thing. You can research that yourself and decide that for yourself, but they are cheaper to buy than all of these other companies, so their relative prices a little bit cheaper. Up next on the list we have Supreme Pharmaceuticals, and this company is interesting because it is the only company that is currently doing business to business. And what that means is that they're going to be only selling to other businesses. So they're going to be growing marijuana, they're going to be selling it to other businesses, and that's it. All of these other companies are currently dealing with business to consumer sales, so they are selling directly to consumers. And the nice thing about being a business to business model, especially in the marijuana industry, is that you don't really have to grow your brand name. You don't have to advertise, you don't have to get customers, you don't need to deal with all of that, you don't need to have those extra expenses, and these guys can only focus on growing, so that's good for them. It's a good business model. The only problem right now that they have is that they still have not gotten their sales license. They have their growing license, so they're allowed to grow marijuana, but they're not allowed to sell it, and the license is being delayed because of some nutrients in their soil that they're using, and they are the first company to get hit by that. It's a new requirement of some sorts that Canada is enforcing, that the nutrients that are being used to grow the marijuana meet certain qualifications, or I don't really know. I haven't looked into it that much, but they should be getting their license fairly soon. I mean, they need to get their license within a reasonable time period because they are going to eventually run out of money. They need to be able to sell their marijuana, obviously, but yeah, so if this company gets their sales license, they should go up, and in general, their business model pretty interesting. Lastly on the list, we have Hydropothecary, and this is a fairly new company. It just came out about a week ago with its public offering, and if you bought it right away, you would have done pretty well. But it's a fairly small company, and they don't have a lot of growing space, so their marijuana is a little bit more expensive than everybody else. Some people view their marijuana being expensive as a good thing, as in some sort of a more luxurious style. I don't really know how much truth there is to that, but take a look at this company. It is smaller. So if you're interested in a smaller company that potentially has a little bit more growth relative to the others, if it does everything right, of course, then this is an interesting company. But take a look at it, see if you're interested. But that's it. These are the major companies. They should be all growing within the next few years, and it should be fairly interesting seeing how they do. But hopefully this helped. If it did, leave a like and check out some of my other stuff.